It's been over 50 years since the Beatles released their final album, but the band remains highly influential and popular today. You may think you know the story of the legendary British rock band, but in this video, we're going to explore facts that you probably didn't know about the Beatles. Welcome to Allvipp Celebrity Corner with Sarah. Today we're diving into one of the biggest bands in music history, the Beatles. Everyone's heard of Beatlemania and timeless songs like Here Comes the Sun and Let It Be. But here are 5 facts you probably didn't know about the band who rewrote the history of popular music in just 1 decade. So, where did it all begin for the Beatles? Well, why don't we start with that band name? Where did it ever come from? The precise story is debated, but what's agreed is that an early version of the group named themselves in honor of Buddy Holly, whose band was called the Crickets. Earlier lineups of the Beatles went with the similar name of the Silver Beatles before changing the spelling and settling on just the Beatles in 1960. Most also know that Ringo Starr wasn't the original drummer for the band in its early days. Pete Best holds the unfortunate title as the drummer fired just before the band became a global phenomenon in the 1960s. But what's sometimes forgotten is that Ringo's transition into the band wasn't entirely a smooth one. When Starr joined the group, the Beatles hadn't yet released their debut album, but they were a popular live band with a following in the UK. When Best was ousted, he received rabid support from some fans who actually gave George Harrison a black eye and forced manager Brian Epstein to hire security. Yikes. But Ringo and his charming personality quickly won over the lively fan base. By the mid-1960s, the Beatles were on top of the music world, and they were also getting increasingly experimental, musically and personally. The band were among the leaders of bringing psychedelic trends to popular music. But for John Lennon and George Harrison, their introductions to psychedelics actually came without their consent during a wild party in 1965. There, Lennon and Harrison had their drinks spiked with LSD by the party's host. Recalling the incident, Lennon later said, "We were just insane. We were out of our heads." He and Harrison found the experience life-changing and encouraged their bandmates to try it. The experiences with the drug were reflected on the next Beatles album, Revolver, which includes the mind-bending song, Tomorrow Never Knows. The psychedelic track still sounds groundbreaking today. Speaking of Revolver, do you have a favorite Beatles album? Well, the band members do too, but even they can't agree on just one. For example, while the title of the Beatles album Sgt. Pepper's has also come to mean an artist's greatest work, Paul McCartney was actually the only Beatle to call it his favorite album. On the other hand, John Lennon was quoted in 1971 as saying he preferred the White Album to Sgt. Pepper's because he thought its music was far superior. George Harrison chose the lighter folk-styled album Rubber Soul, while Ringo Starr named Abbey Road as his top Beatles work. As for Beatles songs, ask Paul McCartney his favorites and he might just give you this answer. You Know My Name, Look Up the Number. Have you heard of it? It's the lesser-known B-side to the 1970 single Let It Be. Paul McCartney said in 2020 that he often calls it his favorite because it's a zany little B-side that nobody knows. The humorous track was one of the group's last, and it came out the year they broke up in 1970. We hope you learned something new about the Beatles today. Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share for more of Allvipp's Celebrity Corner with Sarah. Thanks so much for watching.